Hey, welcome back to the Amplified Podcast. I want to wish you all a happy Black Friday and Brown Thursday. We're so glad to have you with us in the week after. Hopefully you got to spend a lot of time with family. Hopefully you got to maybe travel home the way I did. I went back to St. Louis, and so got out just in time before the snowstorm and was here by Sunday. And so we had a great time here at church last night. We are in a new, let's call it a new studio. It's really the sanctuary here at my new church. So before now I was at New Hope Assembly of God in Oklahoma, in Muskogee, but now the Lord has moved my wife and I to Lake Tahoe, California, and we are at South Shore Christian Assembly in Lake Tahoe, California. So feel free to follow us on Instagram. You can find us at South Shore Chapel on Instagram. South Shore Christian Assembly somehow was already taken on Instagram, although I don't know any other churches with that exact name. But either way, you can find us at South Shore Chapel, or you can find it on my Instagram as well. And so we're so glad to have you with us here today. We've been going through the story of Exodus together. We've been watching how God has delivered the people of Israel out of Egypt. And then you have this unruly bunch of slaves and people that have lived under slavery for upwards of 300 years. And they don't know how to be, a regular society, how to be a regular people. And so the Lord is coming in. He's saying, I'm going to take you on as my children. I'm going to build a house for you. I'm going to give you the promised land. But we have to establish some ground rules first. This is how you're going to treat each other. This is how you're going to treat people who are your indentured servants or slaves. This is how you're going to treat people when they steal from you, or if someone dies, or if someone is killed. This is how we're going to act. And so the last couple episodes, we've talked about a lot of those more specific laws and how they all rest on, you guessed it, if I can write here, the 10 Commandments. So if you can remember those 10 commandments, great. Follow those and you should be good. If you can't remember those 10 commandments, and it's a little sad if you've been in ministry a long time, you can't remember the 10 commandments. But if you can't remember those two, you can remember what Jesus said. He said, if you love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself, you fulfill all of these laws. And then actually those 10 commandments are built up by the 613 laws that we find. So we've been reading through a few of those. They all have symbolic purposes, and they're all about getting this society closer and closer to what God wants them to be. A society that does not keep slaves at all, that does not cheat each other at all, that does not murder, all the above. And if we can do these 613, great. You won't be able to. Nobody can. If you can do those 10 commandments, great. Probably won't be able to. Nobody can except Jesus. Then love your neighbor as yourself and love the Lord your God with everything you've got. So if you can do those things, you can fulfill the law. And Paul even boils it down even more. He says, treat others as you would want to be treated. That fulfills all the law. So treat other people the way you would hope they would treat you. So if you would hope somebody would give you a car, then maybe you should give away a car or two and see what the Lord will do. And so we treat each other the way we would hope other people would treat us, and that fulfills the law. But today, we're going to start to talk about the sanctuary. So God wants to come down, and he wants a place where he can dwell with his people, among his people, with them all the time. And to do that, he needs the tabernacle. And this is an extremely symbolic tabernacle, extremely symbolic building and tent and area that is going to host the Elohim, the raw glory of God. Now, obviously, it's not all of God's glory. Because I think if that were true, if God brought all of himself down to earth, the earth would just burn up. I think God is continually giving more and more of himself to the Israelites. And so we got to see Moses spoke with God face to face. I think that was Jesus pre-incarnate, before he was born in the flesh. Now we're going to see God. He wants to bring his presence and dwell with them continually and be there for just to be there and to be their God and they be his people. They be together. And so this is kind of like a It's a type of Eden. We talked about in the beginning how hopefully you're watching online, you can watch online on YouTube or on Spotify, because I make a lot of notes on my screen here. But if you are not watching, think about it like a Venn diagram with two circles side by side. Now make the circles different where one is on top and one is below. Still the Venn diagram. So you have one circle on top, one circle on bottom. On bottom you have, I just wrote an H. That's not what I meant. So it's a horrible Venn diagram. Forgive me. Okay. On top you have a circle. There we go. On bottom you have a circle. It's more of an oval. On bottom, you have the earth. On top, you have heaven. And the place where they intersect was the Garden of Eden. It was both heaven and earth at the same time. And I think with the tabernacle here, we're seeing once again the earth and heaven come together, where in that place where God's presence is the most, in the Holy of Holies, the most set apart place on planet Earth, you are both in heaven and on earth. You are experiencing the raw presence of God. And that's what it's all about. That is the essence of heaven. It's the presence of God. And so if there's a place where God is dwelling, then that place is heaven. And so I think we see those two come together. But in order to do that, God, I want you to think about it throughout the course of this episode, first of all, how amazing it is that God himself came down in the form of Jesus. And, Jesus said, the Son of Man has nowhere to lay his head, meaning that he basically traveled from home to home and stayed in friends' houses during his ministry. How he was ridiculed, and how I'm sure he slept on the ground, and I'm sure Jesus pooped, and Jesus did all the normal human things, except he did not sin. I'm sure he slept in tents and slept among the disciples and his brothers and stuff, and lived a life. That same God is also worthy of the same respect that we see in this text. That's the raw power of a nuclear bomb is manifest inside of Jesus himself. And Jesus is so humble and so kind that he was willing to come down to our level. And here we're going to see the other side. We're going to see the raw reverence that we have to have for the Lord. And a lot of this is going to be extremely symbolic. So this may be a little bit longer episode because we're going to talk a lot about, why all of these specific materials and colors and shapes and images were used throughout the temple. And it's all foreshadowing Jesus. Of course, we don't have to read Jesus into every part of the Old Testament, but it seems every single part of this is pointing back to the redemption, the power, the blessing of Jesus that's going to come later on, where God gets to be with his people the way he wanted to, this redemption. So we're going to talk about that today. We're going to talk about all the different materials that go into building the temple. And I have some pictures for us. Hopefully my camera's not getting messed up here. Sorry about that if it started to look weird on your screen there for a second. Okay. We may or may not cut that out. So go ahead and open up your Bibles to Exodus 25. Obviously, I'm reading out of the Amplified Bible. You can read out of the New Living Translation. You can read out of the King James Version if you want to. You can also read out of your Alabaster Bibles. These are awesome. It's like a magazine and the Bible came together. And it's just, it's the beauty of the word, also an image as well. And so I highly recommend you pick one of these up, because someday they're going to be a sponsor. But as for today, go ahead and open up your Bible to Exodus 25. We're going to read 25 and 26 today. Okay, so this is starting off with the sanctuary. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, "Tell the children of Israel to take an offering for me from every man whose heart moves him to give. Willingly you shall take my offering." And so God is not forcing a tax upon his people. You have to give this to me. It's not like the other gods where I'm going to smite you if you don't give this to me. But as we see throughout the Bible, there is blessing that comes when we give to the Lord. And so he says, take from among the people the gold that you need and the silver that you need, so that it can be used to build the temple. This offering you are to receive from them: gold, silver, bronze, blue, purple, scarlet fabric, fine twisted linen, goat's hair, ram skin dyed red, porpoise skins, acacia wood, olive oil for lighting balsam, and the anointing oil for the fragrant incense, onyx stones and setting stones for the priest's ephod and the breastpiece, and have them build a sanctuary for me so that I may dwell among them. You shall construct it in accordance with everything that I'm going to show you as the pattern of the tabernacle, the pattern of all its furniture. So what we're about to go through is very, very specific how the Lord wants his tabernacle to be built, because everything in it is symbolic. And I think it's also a representation of the throne room of the Lord in heaven. And so God wants to bring his throne room down to earth. And so he's going to set up the same thing here. And so you may immediately think, well, why does God deserve all of this good stuff? Well, God is the one who gave us all of this good stuff. This earth and all the precious things inside it would not exist had God not created them. So he absolutely deserves it because he owns it all. So we give freely, we give willingly, knowing that the Lord is faithful to pour it back into us 10, 20, 30, 100 times over. And so these first few verses, that was kind of a really short introduction to everything that's going to be described. So that's, if you're reading Spark Notes, that's like the Spark Notes of the next chapter and a half. Okay. So here's what it says. We're going to start with the Ark of the Covenant. I'm going to pull up a picture here for you. If you have ever seen, what's the movie? Indiana Jones, and not the Holy Grail, but Raiders of the Lost Ark. It's the same idea. Same idea. And so I'm going to be circling different things as the Bible is describing them out. Okay. They shall make an ark of acacia wood, 2.5 cubits long, 1.5 cubits wide, and 1.5 cubits high. So we have the 2.5 here. We have the, what does it say? 1.5 cubits high. 1.5 cubits high and 1.5 and 1 cubit wide. So remember, a cubit is just the length from your wrist to your elbow. And so that was just a really easy way of just measuring something out. We kind of use our hands, or we kind of think about a ruler in our head, but they would just use their arm. This is 1 cubit. 1 cubit is just the length of your hand, or your wrist, really. Your wrist to your elbow. Wrist to your elbow. So this thing is not very big at all. Not very big at all. And it's made out of acacia wood. I did a little research for this ahead of time. I want to read these to you. So acacia wood. Those are the stones. We're going to get to that in a moment. Wow, I did a lot of research. I did not know that this much came up. Okay, acacia wood. So the ark and the table and the poles and the frames and the bars and the altar itself are made out of acacia wood. Now, my first thought was, okay, maybe the cross of Jesus is made out of acacia wood. Obviously, this would symbolize and foreshadow him and his glory being placed upon acacia wood, but there's not a lot of evidence to suggest that it was acacia wood. It's very possible, because I live here in Lake Tahoe, so it's possible that some of the houses here are made out of redwood, but it's not very likely, especially with new houses, because the redwood's kind of protected here now. I'm not saying that was the same then, but it's not 100% guaranteed that it was acacia wood. We actually think that it was much more likely cedar, pine, cypress, oak, palm, or even olive, or maybe even a combination of different woods. Remember, they were crucifying people left and right in the following years. And so they would have been cutting down trees from all over to crucify people. It's very symbolic, maybe if it was olive, because olives are crushed, and the oil that we use that burns on the altar comes from crushing. Christ was, of course, crushed on the cross. Symbolically for you and for me. Could be, maybe not. Ultimately, the Bible doesn't say what the cross was made out of. I'm getting way ahead of myself, years ahead of myself here, but we don't know what the cross was made out of. But acacia wood was used in this case because acacia wood was very, very dense. It was rot resistant in the desert, and it's kind of a symbol of incorruptibility and durability. So this wasn't going to dry rot. This wasn't going to crumble under the weights of the tabernacle, the weights of maybe even the glory of the Lord. It was very dense and very strong wood that they were going to use for all of these different things. So all of this has different symbolism, and the symbolism of the acacia wood in this case is the durability and the fact that it's not going to allow corruption or to be maybe torn apart from the inside. It's just going to remain as is. It's going to stay as is. And so you shall overlay the ark with pure gold, overlay it inside and out, and you shall make a gold border or frame around its top. And so all of this entire thing is overlaid with gold. I kind of imagine, so some of it's going to be like rock solid, like pure gold inside and out. Some of it's going to be acacia wood that has gold that's fixed to it. This is a horrible example, but I think in Rambo 3? Rambo's like out living in like a Buddhist temple because he's just like a chill dude, I guess. And they're taking little gold sheets, and they're just hammering it hundreds of times around this tiny little gold sheet until it forms to the exact shape of whatever wood that it's attached to. And so sometimes it wouldn't need nails after that case because it's perfectly formed to what it is. And so I don't know, it could have been both. Maybe they wouldn't have dipped it in gold. That would have just burned up the wood. But suffice it to say, it's covered in gold. You shall cast 4 gold rings for it and attach them to the 4 feet to the 2 rings on either side. So these are these little rings here on the outside, and that's to help carry it because you're not supposed to touch the Ark of the Covenant. And put the poles through the rings on the sides of the ark by which they carry it. The poles shall remain in the rings of the ark, and they shall not be removed from it, so that the ark itself does not need to be touched. Remember, there's a story later on of one of David's servants. He reaches out and he touches the Ark of the Covenant to steady it. They weren't doing things right, and it kills him in that moment. And so I don't want you to think that this is God being vengeful, that he's an angry God that's like, don't touch me, don't touch me. There is so much raw power in the Lord that if I run over and I touch a power station, or I grab onto the power lines hanging way above the ground, then that power is so raw, my body can't handle it, and it will take my life in a moment. I want you to think about the Ark of the Covenant as being like a nuclear warhead. This is when they go into like Chernobyl today and they see like the elephant's foot that's way underground, they have to wear all of this protective material because the raw power and the raw radiation coming off of it is so strong that it's actually harmful for us to be there. So I want you to think of it like that. That's the power of God and the raw energy that is the Lord Almighty is something that we can't come into physical contact to without it costing our lives. And so gold is used for the same reason it's used in wedding rings. Gold is not going to ever corrode. It's not going to ever patina either. Bronze always turns green after a long time. It's incorruptible. It's pure. It's seen as divine. It's unchanging, and it's also quite soft as well. It's a precious metal that doesn't corrode. It's the symbol of God's eternal nature, that He is unchanging. And so the most precious things in the tabernacle are going to be made out of gold. Sorry, my microphone. It's being annoying today, but a lot of the stuff's going to be made out of gold here in the next few verses. So this is now verse 16. You shall put the ark of the covenant. You shall put into the ark the testimony. So this is the 10 commandments, which I will give you. You shall make a mercy seat, the cover. I'm not exactly sure why it's called the mercy seat. This is basically the lid of the ark of the covenant. Maybe it's God is mercifully not allowing us to die when we get within 100 yards of the Ark of the Covenant by putting a lid on top of it. We can't get too close to Chernobyl. It'll cost us our lives. We've talked about it in the past. It's the Ethiopian church that claims to have the Ark of the Covenant today. All of the men that watch it and take care of it, they come out with cataracts in their eyes. Because they say that the ark is a thing of fire. This is a thing of raw power. And so maybe the mercy seat is, it's like lid on a bomb. It's like, it's it's actually protection for us. It's merciful for us. And so you shall make a mercy seat to cover of pure gold, 2.5 cubits long and 1.5 cubits wide. You shall make 2 cherubim. So these are these angels on top, these cherubim. One cherub is one angel of solid hammered gold at the 2 ends of the mercy seat. That's the lid. Make 1 cherub at each end, making the cherub of one piece with the mercy seat at its 2 ends. And so basically it's all one hunk of gold that they've formed here. Okay, so the cherubim shall have their wings spread upward, covering the mercy seat with their wings and facing each other. So if you're thinking about in your mind's eye, think about 2 angels standing on top of this golden box, and they're stretching their wings out toward each other so that the tips of the wings touch each other from end to end, and their bodies are standing on the ends. The faces of the cherubim are to be looking downward toward the lid, the mercy seat. You shall put the mercy seat on top of the ark, and in the ark you shall put the testimony which I shall give you there. And so I want to talk about this. So when the Daily Wire was doing the Exodus series, Dennis Prager had some amazing insight. Dennis is a religious Jew. Hopefully I'm saying that right. He's a religious Jew. He follows all of the old traditions and everything. And he's very strong and extremely knowledgeable. And I'm praying for him now. He's currently paralyzed since his accident. So a horrible accident that happened about a year ago. I'm praying for you, Dennis. I'm believing God can give you back complete mobility in your body. And so he had this amazing insight when they were filming that it's the holiness that protects the law, and it's the reverence that protects the law. And the law is surrounded by the holy things. So if we do not have a reverence for the law, then everything falls down around it. And so the reason why there's so much maybe crime and things seem to be getting worse today, it's because there's a lack of holiness and a lack of reverence for the law of God and for the things of God. And so once the reverence of a society and once the holiness of a society kind of falls away, the manners in a more general sense of a society falls away, then the laws come after it. And so I just thought it was very interesting that the holy protects the law in that case. And so we're going to see that throughout the entire story here of the tabernacle. Okay, we're going into verse 22. There I will meet with you from above the mercy seat, from between the 2 cherubim, which are on the ark of the testimony, which I will speak intimately with you regarding every commandment that I will give you for the Israelites. And so this is the idea that when the Lord invades the tabernacle, once it is finished and dedicated, that his essence and his being will reside directly above the Ark of the Covenant. That's where God will speak from. This is God's throne here on the earth. That his throne is built upon his law. That if we are going to be together, these are the things that we are going to do. Okay, moving on to the table of bread. You shall make a table of acacia wood, 2 cubits long and 1 cubit wide and 1.5 cubits high. You shall overlay it with pure gold and make a border of gold around the top of it. So this is kind of looking like the Ark of the Covenant, except it's not a full box. You shall make a rim of a hand's width around it. You shall make a gold border for the rim around it. You shall make 4 gold rings for it and fasten it to the 4 corners that are on the 4 table legs. The rings shall be close against the rim as holders for the poles to carry the table. And so there's an extreme reverence where we're not even touching with our hands the things that are set apart for the Lord. You shall make the poles of acacia wood and overlay them with gold so that the table may be carried with them. You shall make its plates for the showbread and its cups for incense and its pitchers for the bowls for sacrificial drink offerings. All of it is to be made out of pure gold. It's unchanging, that this is the way things are. You shall set the bread of the presence on the table before me at all times. And this is, of course, leading forward to, in I believe I think Amplified. I know what it's referencing here. It says in John 6:58, Jesus says, I am the bread of life. I am that which feeds you. I'm that which energizes you. I am that which keeps you alive. This is, looking forward to Jesus, who's the bread of life. Okay, now the gold lampstands. The gold lampstand, I don't have a picture of it, but I believe it's talking about a menorah. And so a menorah, I think it would have, we'll see here in a second. You shall make a lampstand of pure gold. The lampstand and its base and its shaft shall be hammered work. Its cups, its calyxes, that is like if you have a flower. This is a horrible, horrible flower. But you have the petals and everything. The calyx is the bud, like where everything comes out of. It's the outer part of the flower. And its flowers shall be all of one piece. So the flower is the inside, the calyx or the bud is the outside. 6 branches shall come out of its sides, 3 branches of the lampstand out of one side, 3 branches of the lampstand out of the other side, and the shaft being the 7th branch. So let's get this drawn out here real quick. So we have the lampstand here, and then we have 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 5 and 6, and 7. So this is a menorah. It's used obviously in Hanukkah today, but its original intent was for being used in the tabernacle. So it's a horrible lampstand picture, but picture a single candle stand that has 7 arms for 7 different candles. 3 cups shall be made like almond blossoms, with each calyx and flower on one branch, and 3 cups shall be made like almond blossoms on the other branch with the calyx and flower, so that the 6 branches coming out of the lampstand. So I looked up why almonds might be used. I think I remember. Let's look up why almonds might be used. Almonds. Okay, pomegranates. I think I know why. So if I'm not mistaken, the almond tree was the first to bloom at the beginning of the year in spring. And so it's a symbol of watchfulness, because if you were looking for spring to come, you would look for the almond tree to finally start budding. Okay, lampstand cup shaped like almond blossoms. The almond is the first tree to bloom in Israel. It's a symbol of life, renewal, and watchfulness connected to God's vigilance. The lampstand becomes a symbol of God's ever watchful presence and the light of life. So God is both watching on us all the time, but he is also the light by which we see the world. Everything in here has symbolism for something in the world, or it is leading to Jesus as well. A calyx shall be under the first pair of branches coming out of it, and a calyx shall be under the second pair of branches coming out of it, and a calyx shall be under the third pair of branches coming out of it, for the 6 branches coming out. So each of these has like a cup or a bud on it. It's kind of like a flower, and that's what's going to hold the candle. That's what's going to hold the candle. For some reason, that kind of looks like Sid the Sloth. Okay, then you shall make lamps of... Oh, I skipped a verse. The calyxes and their branches shall be of one piece with all. All of it shall be one piece of hammered work of pure gold. Then you shall make the lamps of the lampstand 7 in number, with 1 lamp at the top of the shaft, so that the priest shall set its 7 lamps, so that it will light the place in front of it. So this is, we didn't have electricity back in the day, so this is their form of light. Very simple. The snuffers in their trays shall be made out of pure gold, shall be made from a talent, roughly 70 pounds of pure gold, including all these utensils. So everything in this temple is worth a stupid amount of cash. Let's look up how much would 70 pounds of pure gold be worth today. So 1 talent is about 70 pounds, or the amounts a single man can carry on his back. All right, let's look it up. The value of 70 pounds of pure gold depends on the current whatever. Spotted gold price is about $4,200 per troy ounce. So this would make 70 pounds roughly $4,325,650. This is a $4.3 million candle stand. This is how much we are to honor the Lord. This is how sacred he is, how amazing he is, that he is worth even a $4 million lampstand. See that you make them exactly after the pattern which was shown to you on the mountain. So God is very specific because this is supposed to mirror the life and the sacrifice of Jesus, but also the temple that is in heaven today and in heaven at that time as well. So now we're going to move into chapter 26, and we're going to see a lot more symbolism with a lot of the different materials. So far, we've basically seen almonds, gold, and acacia wood, but we're going to add to it. Moreover, verse 1, chapter 26, you shall make the tabernacle, the sacred tent of worship, with 10 interior curtains of fine twisted linen and purple, and scarlet fabric. You shall make them with embroidered cherubim and the handiwork of a skilled craftsman. So don't just get your neighbor to do this. Find the most skilled man in Israel to make the most beautiful tent in Israel. So moreover, you shall make the tabernacle, the sacred tent of worship. I'm going to show you a picture of that. So that is going to be this center tent in the overall temple area. Okay. Now let's go through a few of the symbolic parts of this. Let's look through this. So there were several different materials that were immediately mentioned at the beginning here. So let's look at this. So blue for the curtains and the veil symbolizes heaven and royalty and holiness. Okay. Curtains, purple yarn was for the veil and covering, symbolizes royalty, wealth, and divine kingship. The scarlet yarn represents the sacrifice and the blood of atonement. The fine twisted linen symbolizes the purity and righteousness and priestly holiness. And yeah, so all of this is about representing, the glory and the holiness and that which is set apart, which is the Lord Almighty. The length of each curtain shall be 28 cubits, and the width of each curtain shall be 4 cubits. All of the curtains shall measure the same. The 5 curtains shall be joined to one another, and the other 5 curtains shall be joined to one another. You shall make loops of blue on the outer edge of the last curtain in the first set, and likewise in the second set. You shall make 50 loops on one curtain and 50 loops on the edge of the last curtain that is in the second set. The loops on one curtain correspond to the loops on the other. So if I'm getting this right, I think this is, if I'm getting this right, this is kind of like, it's a horrible example, but a shower curtain is going to have loops that hold it up in the air. This is talking about the different loops that are holding the different sides of the tabernacle together. The loops on one curtain correspond to the loops on the other. You shall make 50 gold hooks and fasten the curtains together with the hooks, and the tabernacle shall be one unit. So that is this portion here within the center of this temple area. Now, I want to see why it was 10 and 50. Why was it 10 and 50? I did research for this as well. Okay, so 50 loops, evenly spaced, joining for stability. This distributed the weights is a very obvious answer. Let's look at the more theological symbolism. The number 10 in the Hebrew Bible represents completeness, order, the fulfillment. And so think about the 10 commandments, the 10 plagues, the 10 generations from Adam all the way to Abraham. 10 is like the number of finished and perfection. 50 is associated with freedom. This is the 50th year is the year of Jubilee. The 50th day after Jesus resurrected was the day of Pentecost, the 50-year cycle of renewal. So you have both completion, but also freedom at the exact same time. So think about that. All of these numbers have significance. God's not doing anything at random here. Then you shall make the exterior curtains of goat's hair as a tent over the tabernacle. You shall make 11 curtains in all. And so I looked up the significance of goat's hair as well. So goat's hair, from what I understand, is extremely water resistant. And so they needed something on the outside that wasn't going to hold water and sag and get heavy. And so it's very practical, but it also symbolically was associated with atonement because if I'm correct, the goat would have been sacrificed and killed in place for the atonement for our sins. So all of this has a ton of symbolism to it. You shall join, each curtain shall be, this is verse 8, shall be 30 cubits long, 4 cubits wide, 11 curtains shall all measure the same. I looked up why it was 11 and not 12. And the idea was that if you put the seam right in the middle, it would have looked bad. And so they wanted the seam to be kind of off center a little bit, I guess, so that it wouldn't bear so much of the weight. I'm not sure how that works, but the 11 is significant in that way that they wanted it to look that way. That's like saying the significance is because it's significant, but 11 is an important number. So make 50 loops on, verse 9, you shall join 5 curtains by themselves and the other 6 curtains by themselves. You shall double over the 6th curtain at the front of the tent to make a closed door. So there would have been a flap here that came down to cover the front, as well as on the back that came down. Make 50 loops on the edge of the outermost curtain in the first set and 50 loops on the outermost curtain in the second set. Shall make 50 bronze hooks and put the hooks into the loops and join the tent together so that it may be one unit. So now that we're getting closer to the outside, like literally the outside world, instead of using gold, they're now using bronze. And so bronze was a much stronger metal. It's stronger than gold. It's not as malleable and soft. And so a lot of the altars and the things that need to be very heavy and just a lot of fidelity is in bronze. And so let's look at bronze real quick. Represents judgment and strength and is used in the outer courts where purification occurs. And so it's more about strength at that point, but also bronze was a little bit more common than gold. And so as it's getting farther away from the Lord, things are going to get more and more common as they go out. The overlapping part that is left over from the tent curtains, the half curtain that is the leftover shall be the lap over the back of the tabernacle. We mentioned that a moment ago. The cubits on one side and 1 cubit on the other of what is left in the length of the curtains of the tent shall lap over the sides of the tabernacle on one side and on the other side to cover it. So basically it's just a full-on kind of like a tent cover that is going to make sure that all of it is protected. You shall make a 3rd covering for the tent of ram skin dyed red and a 4th covering above that of porpoise skin. So if I'm understanding correctly, those would have protected everything inside from rain. Ram skin would have been water resistant and porpoise skin would have been very water resistant. So this is why we're also using acacia wood, because this is a lot of heavy material that's resting on the poles that are the tabernacle, okay? Then you shall make the boards for the tabernacle of acacia wood, like we said, that are standing upright as kind of like a trellis or a frame for the tent. The length of each board shall be 10 cubits, and the width of each board shall be 1.5 cubits. Make dovetails in each board for the fitting together. So you shall do the same for the tabernacle boards. So this is so it can all hold together. You shall make the boards for the tabernacle in the following quantities: 20 boards for the south side. You shall make 40 silver sockets under the 20 boards, 2 sockets under each board for its dovetails, and 2 sockets under another board for its 2 dovetails. So the silver is being used to hold up, I'm guessing, the tent itself. For the north side of the tabernacle, there shall be 20 boards, and there are 40 silver sockets, 2 sockets under each board. For the back or the west side of the tabernacle, you shall make 6 boards. Make 2 boards for the corners of the tabernacle on the rear on both sides. They shall be joined together underneath, and the joined together on top with 1 ring. So it shall be for both of them. They shall form 2 rear corners. And so this is extremely specific. God knows exactly how he wants his house, his resting place to be created, because he also wants it to mirror what it looks like in heaven. Silver for the bases of the frames and the hooks and the bands. This represents redemption and structural stability. I'm not really sure where redemption comes into silver, but I guess silver does represent redemption. So Okay, they shall be joined together. Okay, verse 25. There shall be 8 boards and 16 silver sockets, 2 sockets under each board. You shall make 15 bars of acacia wood, 5 for the boards of one side of the tabernacle and 5 bars for the boards of the other side of the tabernacle, and the 5 bars for the boards of the rear end of the tabernacle for the back wall and toward the west. And so if you're looking at your picture here, that's these, they're calling them boards, but more specifically, they're the pillars that are holding up the tabernacle. And so let me erase this so you can see it better. But that's this whole time we've been talking about these pillars that are holding up the entire tent. And so there's pillars going along all the way down, 5 on the back, and then all the way down again. And they're held together by silver hooks. In the middle bar in the center of the board shall pass through horizontally from end to end. So I guess there's also a board that's going from one side all the way to the other side for structural integrity. Makes sense. You shall overlay the boards with gold and make their rings of gold to hold the bars. You shall overlay the bars with gold. So once again, gold is wrapping this place around. You shall erect the tabernacle according to its plan, the direction corresponding to the meaning and its purpose, which has been shown to you on the mountain. So each time at the end, each section, God's saying, this is how you're going to do it. And then he gives a lot more details and he says, before you start to slack off, this is how you have to do it. Okay, remember. Last portion, verse 31, you shall make a veil to divide the 2 rooms of blue, purple, and scarlet fabric, fine twisted linen, skillfully worked with cherubim on it. So linen would have been used because linen was a very breathable fabric, but it also, when it was originally made, it was white, symbolizing the purity and the holiness. Even the Egyptians and their practices, they used white linen for all the priests. It represented just having no dirtiness on them from the outside world. But they would dye them different colors, and we talked about what those colors meant. Purple was royalty because it was extremely expensive. All these colors are being used for specific purposes, but this is now the veil that is between the Holy of Holies and the holy place. And so think about the first 2/3 being one room. This is the holy place. But the back third, this back room, is the Holy of Holies. Holy, again, just means set apart. This is the set apart place, and this is, of all places in the world, this is the most set apart, this back room. And there's a veil that stands in between them. And the raw power and energy of the Lord himself exists in that back room. And so only once a year were the high priest was ever to go in there with the Ark of the Covenants. And we're going to read a couple things about why his clothing was made the way it was. Okay, I want to make sure I'm getting this right. Yeah, we're in chapter 26. So last section, you shall make the veil to divide the 2 rooms of blue and purple scarlet fabric and fine twisted linen skillfully worked with the cherubim. You shall hang on it 4 pillars supporting poles of acacia wood overlaid with gold hooks on 4 silver sockets. Sorry, I'm just trying to make sure I didn't miss something. Okay, I guess I got ahead of myself. I'm ready for next week, but you shall hang the veil from the hooks that connect the curtains together. You shall bring the Ark of the Covenant of the Testimony. So the Ark, we keep saying the Ark of the Covenant. It's called the Ark of the Testimony here. It's the same thing. There within the veil shall separate for you the holy place and the Holy of Holies, the front to the back. You shall put the mercy seat on the Ark of the Covenant in the Holy of Holies. You shall set the table for the holy bread outside the veil, so in the first section, the holy place, on the north side, and the lampstand opposite the table on the south side. Remember, Jesus says, I am the bread of life. I am the light of the world. Jesus is the very essence of the Ark of the Covenant. And it just makes Jesus all the more wonderful knowing that the raw power of God that is in the Ark of the Covenant was resting inside Jesus at all times. You shall set the table for the bread outside the veil in the holy place on the north side. Okay, I read that. Last couple verses, verse 36. You shall make a screen to provide a covering for the doorway of the tent. Shall make a screen to provide a covering for the doorway of the tent of blue and purple and scarlet fabric, of finely woven embroidered linen, the work of an embroiderer. So this is someone who knows how to do this. You're not just getting a random person. So drop this. So I think this is talking about this front covering. So you have the veil that's right here, but then you also have another veil that's right here, keeping people away from the holy place. You shall make 5 pillars, support poles of acacia wood to support the hanging curtain, and overlay them with gold. Their hooks shall be of gold. You shall cast 5 sockets of bronze for them. So bronze, of course, is the strong, heavy material. It's going to keep these stable, but everything else is made out of gold. So this is how the tabernacle was made. We're going through the details here. We're not seeing the outer curtains yet all the way around, but God has a very specific way he wants to do this because he wants to reside with his people as he does in heaven, and he deserves it. He is holy and he is worthy of all of this preparation for him to be there. And so a lot of this too is God's probably doing this different from the other cultures because God is different from all the other cultures. God is worthy of reverence and respect. There's no blood cults that are, just surrounding a statue. There's nothing like that. It's just the law. This is the essence of who God is. This is the holiness of the Lord, how he's set apart. And so we're going to get into the bronze altar next week and the garments of the priests. And it's some pretty fascinating stuff. So we hope you join us next week. And if you heard me at the beginning, I want to wish you last week a happy Thanksgiving. And I know this is probably bugging some of you, but I did that just for fun. But we will see you guys next week and right here on the Amplified Podcast.